Welcome everybody, it's Rich here with another fast and fun video. And in this week's video, we're taking a look at a 2016 Audi TT Roadster. So the Mark III TT came out in 2014 and it's still the current generation today in 2021. There was three different petrol engines. There was the 2-litre turbo with 227 brake horsepower, which this car is. There was a TTS, which had a higher tuned and over 300 brake horsepower. And then there was the mad barking TTRS with its 2.5-litre 5-cylinder engine producing nearly 400 horsepower. So let's take a look round this Mark III TT then. So the TT's gone through so many different, probably significant iterations really over its three different generations. The Mark I, the one that I loved really, more so for the rounded looks of that innovative type of styling with the Mark I. It was just always let down by the sort of the driving experience, and then we came in with the Mark II, which I've never driven. I was told it actually drives really, really well, but I just didn't get on with the styling of the Mark IIs. But then in 2014, Audi came out with this, the Mark III, and really intrigued to see how it drives. It just looks so much more aggressive than the Mark IIs. I love the front ends, especially the low profile, thin, almost R8 style of headlights. Really quite aggressive, angular type of looking car, especially shown off in this sort of this gunmetal grey colour. If we look at some of the detail, this here, these what appear at first to be vents are actually nothing more than black plastic, and they do look a bit sort of low grade type of well, it's just a blanking panel, to tell you the truth. Headlights, really smart looking. Again, it's another, I had a Mercedes C-Class that was very similar. You can get 2-3 fingers in there. I'm not sure why they've styled it that way on the front of the TT. It could be with cooling, but probably not, because when you look at this, what appears at first to be a large air vent, most of it's actually blanked off. So, these headlights have got normal daylight running lights. The wheels here, the alloys, these are multi-spoke, 18 inches they are. You've got this crease down the sort of where the bonnet meets the front wing. There's this sort of, it looks like the bonnet's not actually shut. But I think it's because it's the feature that it flows into the crease down the door panel. The roof itself looks all material, but actually, and you can see how that gives, but this front section here is actually, that's all hard. And up to about sort of a good foot and a half is all hard panel. Quite unusual, certainly compared to the Boxster, MX-5, etc. The rear windscreen there is, yeah, the rear windscreen is glass, just checking that. And then we go out towards the back. This one's is the 225 horsepower. It's got twin exhaust. I've just actually started it up briefly, and it sounds actually really quite nice. The rear lights, again, the long, sleek, angular looking rear lights of the TT. There's a boot spoiler here that comes up similar to the Boxster. Comes up at about, I think it's 74 miles per hour, and then drops when you get below, I think, about 50. You can manually operate it as well, but to tell you the truth, I'd just leave it in automatic. It's probably what most drivers will do. Fuel cap. Quite a nice looking fuel cap, to tell you the truth, with the TT emblem on there. Before we go inside, let's just take a look at the boot. Interesting feature with the Roadster, you'd think the boot space would be actually smaller than the TT Coupe, but it's actually not. And if you look, I don't know how well you can see this, but the boot goes right in, right up and behind. So a huge area, actually. It's an incredibly large boot, if not quite shallow. But the boot's larger on the Roadster than it is on the Coupe, and that's because obviously the Roadster's a two-seater. The normal TT Coupe is a 2+2, and when the roof is folded back, it collapses down above the boot area. So that's why the boot of the Roadster is actually larger than the Coupe. If we take a look inside the car, and this, I think, is where the TT scores very highly. You've got to think it's in a very competitive market. It's probably up against things like the Mercedes SLK. It's up against things like the BMW Z4. It's that German branding. If you look in here, this particular model, full digital dash as well, digital instruments. If you scan across, 6-speed manual, those huge air vents really dominate the inside. A few splashes of TT in here as well. The seats of this model, half leather, half Alcantara, I think, or suede. Seat bolsters, everything looks almost new, to tell you the truth. It's really, really smart looking car, the features of it. One interesting point here is on the seat belt itself, and again, I'm not sure how easy you can see this, but these small little dimples on the seat belt, they're actually microphones here, and this is for the hands-free device. So when you are roof down driving, the quality of the audio is fantastic. And that's because of those microphones inbuilt into the seat belts. What a great idea by Audi. So this one, as I say, it's 5 years old, about 43,000 miles at the moment. And we've got a great day. So we're gonna put the roof down, take it for a drive and see, well, to see if it drives as well as it looks. Okay, so let's take the TT for a drive and let's see what we think. Like most modern cars, digital handbrake, which hopefully should just disengage as I move off, and it does. And let's take it on some of my favourite B roads. I'm using a new mic for this video, so I'm hoping that the sound quality will have been improved, and if it has, I'll probably be using this for future videos as well. So about the car, what's first impressions with the car? Well, straight away it does speak of great quality build. It all feels, all the touch points, the seats, the steering wheel, the gear stick, they all feel really, really well made. I think the seating position is absolutely spot on. You can get the seat nice and low. I feel really, really comfortable. It's got one of my pet hates with cars that don't have footrests for your left foot. It's got a footrest as well. Gear stick naturally falls to your hand, so I feel comfortable. Seats are overly supportive with regard to lumbar support, but I think for long journeys I'd expect these to be actually really, really comfortable. The layout itself, well, you've got the digital dash. Probably because it's new to me, it does look incredibly fussy, incredibly complicated. For me, they're just almost overloading with the amount of information on the screen. You've got the speedo, analog speedo on the right with the digital speedo in the middle, and then on the left I've got the rev counter, and then just a swathe of information there. And I know you can scroll through and change different settings, but sometimes I think they make modern cars just that bit too complicated. Don't overload the driver with too much information. The rest of the dash, well, the thing that's missing is the center display, where you'd normally have your infotainment system, where you'd normally have your nav system, where you'd have your climate control. All there's nothing there, and that's probably because all the displays are in that center dash. And I keep looking to the left about changing temperature settings, etc., and I can't do that because there's nothing to actually see. So that's quite a quirk really of this TT. Other features of it, these very large circular dials, they almost look like the turbines for jet engines, but actually I kind of quite like them. It took me a bit of fiddling to understand how they actually work and how I change them from one position into another, but with a bit of playing around, and I'm getting used to them. And because it hasn't got that front or middle screen there, it means the rest of the dash is actually quite simple, quite plain, and I like that, and I think more cars should be like that. Just because we've got modern technology, we haven't got to splash it all over the car. In the center console, we've got this sort of aluminium look fascia. Not 100% convinced by it. It's the stop, start, go functionality as well. And then a few electronic handbrake and a dial for the, oh, there's a car. Let me just move over without hitting any stones. So there's some other displays here for radio, media system, telephone, maps, etc., and a circular control button similar to the BMW iDrive or the Mercedes system as well. But it's a very nice, comfortable car, and I've gone here, pick up speed here, get up to 40, 50 miles an hour, and the wind noise with roof down seems very suppressed. Not sure what it'd be like at faster speeds, but certainly for sort of normal everyday driving, wind speeds are absolutely fine. The gearbox is a little bit notchy. In truth, it just feels a little bit, it's not quite as slick and as efficient as I'd like it to be. You don't want to rush that gear change. As I just drop down second gear there. Then into third, back into second. Yeah, there's a mechanical feel to it. I'm not sure it's the best gear change I've ever felt or used, but it's adequate. Brakes are sharp and progressive, although the only thing that's currently lacking is the steering. It's very light, a little bit oversensitive, just not quite sure what that front end's doing on some of the fast sweeping corners. So as I pull away from here then, how's this 227 brake horsepower feel? Second gear, 4, 5, accelerate hard now, 6, into third gear. It's adequate. It's adequate. Don't forget it's a larger car now. the TT, it's the Roadster, so there's going to be some weight with regard to the motors, etc. for the automatic roof. So it's adequate. It's sort of lukewarm performance, but I suppose most people that buy the 2-litre TFSI in 227 brake horsepower Roadsters are probably not the hardcore performance enthusiasts. So if this is something for more everyday driving, for summer driving, but has good performance, then this is absolutely got that in bounds. And it does sound quite nice. I have to say, it does sound quite nice. It's just that really lightweight feel of the steering. And it's probably reminiscent of a lot of modern cars, to tell you the truth. I look at my previous Mark 1 TTs that I've owned. Two of them are the 1.8 turbo and the 3.2 VR6, and the inside of those to the inside of this, they're just, I mean, there was less than 10 years between these models, but it feels like more like 20. Hugely different. The class, the feel, the touch of this cabin is so much more advanced than the Mark 1. Biggest issue the TT has had is regard to its perception. Being the hairdresser's car, and I think I was absolutely fearful that this Mark III, which I have to say, I think is a really smart looking car and a huge improvement over what I thought was a disappointing looking Mark II. I was just fearful that it would just be a big letdown, especially in this guise, the 227, rather than the hotter S or super hot RS version. And being a Roadster, it would carry a little bit more weight penalty, a little bit less structurally rigid compared to the coupe. But I've been actually rather surprised how the car's performed. It drives really, really well, and I think certainly when you're pushing on at 8, 9 tenths, the light steering's absolutely fine and makes everyday driving that much easier. So what's my summary of my time with this Mark III TT? Well, I was a little bit apprehensive that it wouldn't be the car that I was really after. I just thought it had lacked some appeal, but actually, in the flesh, when you get up close, there's a lot to like about the TT. I think the looks in particular for me won it over. How they got it so right with the Mark 1, for me, they got it so wrong with the Mark 2, but that they've got it so right again with the Mark 3. But looks was only half the battle. The rest, and most importantly, was how did the car drive? And it's really surprised me. I've actually really enjoyed the car. And I think, for me, yes, the engine's adequate, the gearbox can be a little bit notchy, and the steering's a bit light. But I'm being critical, really, because if I drove this in isolation as an everyday Roadster to be used commuting to the supermarket and for weekend trips away, I think you could do an awful lot worse than the Mark III TT. And I have to say, yes, it's very complicated in the dash. There's lots of driver information on the dash, but the rest of it's quite simple, quite minimalistic. I think probably leave the aluminium off the car, but it just feels like this is bulletproof. It's 5 years old, it's done 43,000 miles, and yet it feels like it's probably a year old with 10,000. And that shows you German engineering or Audi engineering. I'm warming to this car, and I can absolutely see its appeal. Whether you'd rather have one than a Mercedes SLK or BMW Z4's probably going to come down to largely brand or German brand loyalty. But for me, if you overlook the Audi TT without even giving it consideration, you've missed a point. So there we go, that's my review of the 3rd generation Audi TT in 2 litre TFSI 225 horsepower Roadster version. I hope you've enjoyed the different footage today with a bit of drone work, some revised mic work as well, hoping the sound improves. And if you enjoyed it, any comments, please drop them below. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And of course, please subscribe if you haven't. Stay tuned, there'll be another video coming up very, very soon. Hey, right, go and bug them off while I rag the arse out of this.